The story of Spider-Man, Far From Home begins in the wake of one of the most devastating events in cinematic history. The universe has been forever changed by the snap of Thanos, an event so catastrophic that it came to be known as the blip. Half of all life vanished for 5 years, only to return unchanged while the world around them had moved on. Peter Parker, the young Spider-Man, was among those who disappeared, leaving behind a world that had to learn to live without its heroes. When he returned, he found himself in a universe where his mentor Tony Stark had made the ultimate sacrifice to defeat Thanos, leaving behind a legacy and a responsibility that felt impossibly heavy for a teenager to bear. The film opens with a touching tribute to the fallen heroes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, particularly focusing on Tony Stark, whose death has left a void, not just in Peter's life, but in the entire world. The memorial sequence, set to Whitney Houston's rendition of I Will Always Love You, serves as both an emotional farewell to beloved characters and a stark reminder of the weight of expectation, now resting on the shoulders of the surviving heroes. Peter Parker finds himself grappling with the enormity of this responsibility while trying to maintain some semblance of a normal teenage life. The world expects him to step up and fill the void left by Iron Man, but Peter simply wants to be a regular kid going on a school trip to Europe with his friends. The opening scenes establish the new reality of the post-blip world, where students who were snapped out of existence have returned to complete their high school education, alongside classmates who are now 5 years older. This creates an interesting dynamic that the film explores with both humor and pathos. The Midtown School of Science and Technology has organized a summer field trip to Europe, and Peter sees this as the perfect opportunity to take a break from his superhero responsibilities and finally tell his classmate MJ how he feels about her. He has carefully planned out how he will reveal his feelings, even going so far as to buy a necklace for her in Venice, hoping to create the perfect romantic moment away from the chaos of his Spider-Man duties. However, Peter's plans for a relaxing European vacation are immediately complicated when Happy Hogan informs him that Nick Fury wants to make contact. Peter, determined to maintain his cover and enjoy his trip, chooses to ignore Fury's calls, hoping that he can somehow avoid being drawn back into the world of superheroes. This decision reflects Peter's internal struggle between his desire for normalcy and his sense of duty, a theme that runs throughout the entire film. His classmates, including his best friend Ned Leeds, his crush MJ, the academic decathlon team, and even his rival Flash Thompson, are all excited about the European adventure, blissfully unaware of the supernatural threats that are about to disrupt their educational tour. The European adventure begins in Venice, Italy, one of the most romantic and picturesque cities in the world. The students are staying in a rather run-down hotel, but their spirits remain high as they explore the historic canals and ancient architecture. Peter's plan to win over MJ seems to be going well until their romantic gondola ride is interrupted by the sudden appearance of a massive water creature that emerges from the canal system. The water elemental, as it comes to be known, is a towering, destructive force that threatens to destroy Venice's priceless cultural heritage and harm countless innocent tourists and locals. As chaos erupts around him, Peter faces an impossible choice. He could maintain his secret identity and hope that someone else will handle the crisis, or he could risk exposing himself as Spider-Man to save the people around. His heroic instincts ultimately win out, and he manages to help evacuate civilians and minimize damage while keeping his identity secret. However, his efforts are overshadowed by the arrival of a mysterious figure who seems to possess incredible powers. This newcomer flies through the air surrounded by green energy, wielding what appears to be genuine magic as he battles the water elemental with spectacular displays of power that leave the creature defeated and the city saved. The mysterious hero introduces himself as Quentin Beck, though he is better known by his superhero alias, Mysterio. Beck cuts an impressive figure in his elaborate costume, complete with a distinctive fishbowl helmet and flowing cape, that gives him an otherworldly appearance. He claims to be from an alternate dimension within the multiverse, a refugee from a world that was destroyed by the same elemental creatures that are now threatening this reality. According to Beck's story, the elementals destroyed his family, his civilization, and everything he held dear, leaving him as the sole survivor with the knowledge and power necessary to stop them from doing the same to this world. Nick Fury and Maria Hill, who have been tracking the elemental attacks, arrive in Venice to investigate the incident and recruit Beck to their cause. Fury is immediately impressed by Beck's apparent abilities and his knowledge of the threat they're facing. When Fury finally tracks down Peter Parker, he presents him with Tony Stark's signature glasses, a piece of technology that represents far more than a simple inheritance. The glasses are the interface for EDITH, an artificial intelligence system that grants access to Stark Industries' most advanced technology, including a vast network of orbital defense satellites equipped with powerful weaponry. EDIT stands for Even Dead, I'm the Hero, a typically clever Stark acronym that serves as both a technological marvel and an emotional reminder of Tony's continued influence on Peter's life. The system represents the ultimate expression of Stark's trust in Peter, giving him access to weapons and surveillance capabilities that could make him one of the most powerful people on Earth. However, Peter feels overwhelmed by this responsibility, viewing it as yet another burden that he's not ready to carry. He wants to be a teenager, not the inheritor of Tony Stark's technological empire and the guardian of such dangerous capabilities. Beck explains that there are 4 elemental creatures in total, each representing one of the classical elements: water, earth, air, and fire. He claims that 3 of them have already been defeated in his home dimension, but they followed him through the dimensional rift and are now loose in this reality. Only the fire elemental remains, and Beck predicts that it will manifest in the next location, where there's a significant energy signature. Based on his calculations and experience, he believes Prague, Czech Republic, will be the next target, making it imperative that they prepare for battle there. Despite Fury's insistence that Peter join the fight, the young hero declines, preferring to continue with his school trip and maintain some semblance of normalcy. Peter's decision frustrates Fury, who sees Spider-Man as a crucial asset in defending the world, now that so many other heroes are gone. Unbeknownst to Peter, Fury manipulates the situation by secretly changing the school's itinerary, ensuring that their European tour will take them directly to Prague, just as Beck predicted the fire elemental would appear. This manipulation reflects Fury's pragmatic approach to heroism and his willingness to use any means necessary to protect the world, even if it means manipulating teenagers and disrupting their lives. When the school trip reaches Prague, Peter finds himself once again caught in the middle of a supernatural crisis. The fire elemental proves to be even more dangerous than its water-based counterpart, a towering creature of molten rock and flame that threatens to reduce the beautiful historic city to ash and rubble. The stealth suit represents Peter's attempt to compartmentalize his superhero activities, keeping them separate from his regular life and his friends. The battle in Prague is spectacular and destructive, with Beck and Spider-Man working together to contain the fire elemental and prevent it from causing massive casualties. Beck's powers seem ideally suited to combat these creatures, as he can match their scale and destructive capability with his own mystical abilities. Peter provides crucial support, using his agility and web-slinging skills to evacuate civilians and create opportunities for Beck to strike decisive blows against the creature. The partnership between the two heroes appears to be highly effective, with Beck's experience and power complementing Peter's youth and ingenuity. Following their victory in Prague, Fury invites both Peter and Beck to Berlin to discuss the formation of a new superhero team. The world desperately needs heroes to fill the void left by the Avengers, and Fury sees Beck as a potential leader for a new generation of defenders. However, Peter still feels unprepared for such massive responsibilities and suggests that Beck should lead any new team. In a moment that he will later regret, Peter transfers control of EDITH to Beck, believing that the older, more experienced hero is better suited to wield such power. This decision represents Peter's continued reluctance to step into Tony Stark's shoes and his faith in Beck's apparent heroism and competence. What Peter doesn't realize is that his trust has been catastrophically misplaced. After he leaves, Beck reveals his true nature in a scene that completely recontextualizes everything the audience has witnessed up to this point. Far from being a heroic refugee from another dimension, Beck is revealed to be a former Stark Industries employee who was fired from his position as a holographic illusion specialist due to his unstable personality and dangerous obsessions. The magical powers he has been displaying are actually sophisticated holographic projections created by a network of advanced drones equipped with powerful projectors. Beck's motivation is deeply personal and rooted in his resentment toward Tony Stark. Years earlier, he had developed the holographic technology that Stark used for therapeutic purposes in Captain America Civil War, calling it BARF, binarily augmented retroframing. When Stark dismissed Beck's work and his grandiose vision for its applications, Beck was humiliated and eventually fired. He has spent years nurturing his resentment and planning his revenge, gathering a team of other disgruntled former Stark employees who share his desire to expose what they see as Stark's arrogance and to claim the recognition they believe they deserve. The elementals are entirely fake, elaborate illusions created by Beck's technology and staged to make him appear heroic. Every aspect of his story has been carefully crafted to manipulate not just Peter Parker, but the entire world into believing that he is a genuine hero, worthy of trust and admiration. The plan is brilliant in its scope and psychological manipulation, playing on people's need for heroes and their willingness to believe in simple narratives of good versus evil. Beck understands that the world wants to believe in heroes, and he has weaponized that desire for his own gain, with EDITHT. Now under his control, Beck has access to the orbital weapons platform that will allow him to create even more convincing and destructive illusions. His ultimate plan is to stage one final massive attack that will establish him as the world's greatest hero, while eliminating anyone who might expose his deception. The scope of his ambition is staggering, as he plans to use Stark's own technology to create a false flag operation that will cement his position as the new leader of Earth's superhero community. Meanwhile, Peter's personal life is becoming more complicated as MJ begins to show signs that she knows more about his secret identity than she's been letting on. MJ has always been observant and intelligent, and Peter's frequent disappearances and mysterious injuries haven't escaped her notice. During their time in Europe, she reveals that she has figured out that he is Spider-Man, a revelation that both relieves and terrifies Peter. On one hand, he no longer has to maintain the exhausting pretense of hiding his identity from someone he cares about. On the other hand, he now has to worry about her safety and the possibility that his enemies might target her to get to him. MJ's knowledge of Peter's secret creates an opportunity for them to work together to investigate Beck's claims. She has collected a piece of debris from one of the elemental attacks, and when they examine it closely, they discover that it's actually a sophisticated projector device. This physical evidence contradicts Beck's story about interdimensional creatures and suggests that the attacks might not be what they appear to be. The discovery forces Peter to confront the possibility that he has been deceived and that his trust in Beck was misplaced. Realizing the magnitude of his mistake, Peter rushes to Berlin to warn Fury about Beck's deception. However, Beck has anticipated this possibility and has prepared an elaborate trap. Beck uses the opportunity to extract information about who else knows about his deception, forcing Peter to reveal that MJ and Ned are aware of the truth. What follows is one of the most psychologically disturbing sequences in any superhero film, as Beck subjects Peter to an elaborate series of illusions designed to break his spirit and demonstrate the futility of opposing. The illusion battle is a masterpiece of visual effects and psychological warfare, as Beck uses Peter's own fears and insecurities against him. Peter finds himself confronting nightmarish visions of his failures, his inadequacies, and his deepest fears about being unable to live up to Tony Stark's legacy. The illusions include horrifying scenarios where Peter is responsible for MJ's death, where he is confronted by a zombified version of Iron Man, and where he must face multiple versions of himself in a hall of mirrors that reflects his self-doubt and confusion. Beck's psychological assault is relentless and brutal, designed not just to defeat Peter physically, but to crush his spirit and his confidence in his own abilities. The sequence demonstrates Beck's understanding of psychological manipulation and his willingness to use the most cruel and personal attacks to achieve his goals. The illusion battle culminates with Peter being struck by a train, an event that Beck believes has killed the young hero. However, Peter survives the impact, though he is severely injured and finds himself waking up in a jail cell in the Netherlands, confused and disoriented. His survival is a testament to his resilience and his spider powers, but he is left physically and emotionally battered by the experience. The encounter with Beck has stripped away his illusions about trust and heroism, forcing him to confront the reality that not everyone who claims to be a hero is worthy of that title. From his jail cell, Peter contacts Happy Hogan, the one person he knows he can trust completely. Happy immediately flies to Europe to retrieve Peter, and their reunion is both emotional and practical. Happy has brought with him one of Tony Stark's mobile workshops, a high-tech facility that allows Peter to design and create a new Spider-Man suit. This sequence serves as both a practical plot device and a symbolic moment of growth for Peter as he takes control of his own destiny and creates equipment that reflects his own vision rather than simply inheriting Tony's designs. The suit creation sequence is accompanied by AC/DC's Back in Black, the same song that played during Tony Stark's workshop scenes in the Iron Man films. This musical callback serves to connect Peter's journey with Tony's legacy, while also highlighting how Peter is becoming his own hero rather than simply trying to fill someone else's shoes. The new suit incorporates elements that Peter has learned he needs through his experiences, including enhanced web shooters and improved protection, but it also reflects his own aesthetic preferences and his growth as both a person and a hero. Meanwhile, Beck is preparing for his masterstroke, planning to stage a final attack in London that will cement his reputation as the world's greatest hero. He intends to use EDITH satellite network to create an illusion that combines all four elementals into one massive super creature that will threaten the entire city. During this staged battle, he plans to eliminate MJ, Ned, and anyone else who knows the truth about his deception, making their deaths appear to be unfortunate casualties of the elemental attack. The plan is both grandiose and deeply personal, reflecting Beck's narcissistic need for validation and his willingness to commit mass murder to achieve his goals. The final battle takes place in London, with iconic landmarks like Tower Bridge serving as the backdrop for the confrontation between Spider-Man and Mysterio. Beck's illusions have reached their peak of sophistication, creating a chaotic environment where reality and fiction become impossible to distinguish. The elemental fusion creature appears to be a genuine threat to the city, complete with destructive powers that seem to cause real damage to buildings and infrastructure. The illusion is so convincing that even the audience might find themselves questioning what is real and what is projection. Peter's challenge in this final battle is not just physical but psychological, as he must learn to trust his instincts and rely on his Peter Tingle, the film's humorous name for his spider sense, to distinguish between Beck's illusions and reality. The spider sense becomes crucial to his victory, as it allows him to navigate through the maze of false images and locate the real Beck among all the projections. This represents a significant moment of growth for Peter, as he learns to trust his own abilities and instincts rather than relying on technology or the guidance of others. The battle is intense and personal, with Beck using every psychological weapon at his disposal to break Peter's concentration and resolve. He creates illusions of Peter's friends being in danger, forces him to confront false versions of himself, and generally tries to overwhelm him with sensory input and emotional manipulation. However, Peter has learned from their previous encounter and is better prepared to handle Beck's tactics. He uses his intelligence and creativity to turn Beck's own technology against him, gradually dismantling the illusion network and exposing the man behind the curtain. The final confrontation between Peter and Beck is both a physical fight and a battle of wills. Beck, revealed to be nothing more than a man in a suit, surrounded by drones, is far less impressive without his technological advantages. However, he remains dangerous and desperate, willing to use any means necessary to achieve his goals or to take Peter down with him. The fight demonstrates how Peter has grown as a hero, showing tactical thinking, emotional control, and the kind of heroic determination that Tony Stark saw in him from the beginning. Beck's defeat comes not through superior firepower, but through Peter's ability to outthink and outmaneuver him. By regaining control of EDITH, Peter turns Beck's own weapons against him and brings down the entire illusion network. Beck is ultimately killed by his own drones in a misfired shot, but not before he manages to enact one final act of revenge. He has instructed his associate William Ginter Riva to retrieve data from the drones, ensuring that his death will not be the end of his plan to destroy Spider-Man's reputation. The immediate aftermath of the battle seems to suggest that Peter has won a complete victory. He has saved London, defeated the villain, and even begun a romantic relationship with MJ, finally achieving the personal happiness he had been seeking throughout the film. The young couple shares their first kiss on a bridge in London, seemingly bringing Peter's European adventure to a perfect romantic conclusion. For a brief moment, it appears that Peter has managed to balance his superhero responsibilities with his personal desires, achieving the kind of normal teenage experience he had been longing for. However, Beck's revenge extends beyond the grave in a way that will forever change Peter Parker's life. In the film's mid-credits scene, the world is introduced to a new version of J. Jonah Jameson, the bombastic editor who has been Spider-Man's most persistent critic throughout the character's comic book history. This version of Jameson, played once again by J.K. Simmons, operates a conspiracy theory website rather than a traditional newspaper, reflecting how media and information dissemination have changed in the modern world. Jameson broadcasts footage that Beck recorded before his death, edited and manipulated to present a completely false narrative of the London incident. In this version of events, Spider-Man is responsible for the drone attacks and Beck's death, portrayed as a heroic whistleblower who died trying to expose Spider-Man's true nature. The footage is convincing enough to fool the general public, who have no way of knowing the truth about Beck's illusions and manipulations. The broadcast concludes with the revelation of Spider-Man's secret identity, as Beck exposes Peter Parker's name and face to the entire world. This revelation represents a catastrophic failure of the secret identity that has been crucial to Peter's ability to protect both himself and his loved ones. Unlike other heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe who have operated with public identities, Spider-Man has always depended on his anonymity to keep his enemies from targeting the people he cares about. The exposure of his identity puts not just Peter at risk, but also Aunt May, MJ, Ned, and everyone else in his life. The scene ends with Peter and MJ swinging through New York City as news helicopters pursue them, dramatically illustrating how his world has been turned upside down. The post-credits scene provides an additional twist that recontextualizes much of what the audience has witnessed throughout the film. It is revealed that the Nick Fury and Maria Hill, who appeared throughout the movie, were actually the Skrulls Talos and Soren in disguise, reprising their roles from Captain Marvel. The real Nick Fury is shown to be in space, apparently working with a larger group of Skrulls on some undisclosed mission. This revelation raises questions about how much of what happened in the film was influenced by the Skrulls' involvement and whether their agenda aligned with what the real Fury would have wanted. The Skrull revelation adds another layer to the film's themes of deception and the difficulty of knowing who to trust. If even Nick Fury, one of the most trusted figures in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, can be impersonated so convincingly, then how can anyone be certain of what is real and what is manipulation? This theme resonates throughout the film, from Beck's elaborate illusions to the false media narrative that frames Spider-Man, creating a world where truth itself becomes a battleground. From a technical standpoint, Spider-Man: Far From Home represents a remarkable achievement in visual effects and filmmaking. The illusion sequences required innovative approaches to combining practical filmmaking with digital effects, creating scenes that blur the line between reality and fantasy in ways that serve the story's themes. The film's visual effects teams, led by companies like Framestore, Industrial Light and Magic, and Sony Pictures Imageworks, created some of the most psychologically complex and visually stunning sequences in any superhero. The European locations provide a gorgeous backdrop for the story, with each city offering its own distinctive visual character and cultural flavor. Venice's romantic canals and historic architecture contrast sharply with Prague's Gothic buildings and medieval atmosphere, while London's modern skyline and iconic landmarks provide the perfect setting for the climactic battle. The production team's decision to film in actual European locations rather than relying entirely on studio work gives the film an authenticity and visual richness that enhances the story's themes about Peter's journey of discovery. The film's costume design deserves particular recognition, especially in the creation of Mysterio's elaborate outfit and the various Spider-Man suits. Mysterio's costume successfully translates the character's comic book appearance to live action while adding practical elements that make sense within the film's technological framework. The various Spider-Man suits each serve specific narrative purposes, from the stealth suit that represents Peter's attempt to compartmentalize his heroic act symbolizes his growth into his own version of the hero. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance as Mysterio is a masterclass in portraying a character with multiple layers of deception. He must convincingly portray Beck as a genuine hero while also preparing the audience for the revelation of his true nature. Gyllenhaal manages to create a character who is simultaneously charismatic and trustworthy in his heroic persona, while also being genuinely menacing and disturbed when his true nature is revealed. His performance captures both Beck's genuine intelligence and tactical skills, as well as his narcissistic need for validation and his willingness to commit atrocities to achieve his goal. Tom Holland continues to excel in his portrayal of Peter Parker, capturing both the character's heroic determination and his very human struggles with responsibility and relationships. Holland's performance successfully conveys Peter's growth throughout the film, from a teenager who wants to avoid responsibility to a young man who learns to trust his own judgment and take control of his destiny. His chemistry with Zendaya creates a believable romantic relationship that feels natural and earned rather than forced, while his interactions with the supporting cast maintain the film's themes about the importance of friendship and community. The film's screenplay, written by McKenna and Erik Sommers, successfully balances multiple complex plot threads while maintaining a clear narrative focus. The script manages to serve as both a sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming and a follow-up to Avengers: Endgame, addressing the consequences of both films while telling its own complete story. The dialogue captures the authentic voice of teenagers while also dealing with sophisticated themes about truth, responsibility, and the nature of heroism. Director Jon Watts demonstrates a clear understanding of both the Spider-Man character and the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe, creating a film that honors the franchise's history while also pushing the character in new directions. His direction maintains the film's emotional core while delivering spectacular action sequences, and he shows particular skill in handling the film's complex visual effects sequences without losing sight of the human story at the center of the narrative. The film's exploration of media manipulation and false information feels particularly relevant in the current era of social media and information. Beck's ability to create convincing false narratives and manipulate public opinion reflects real-world concerns about the difficulty of distinguishing truth from fiction in an age of sophisticated propaganda and deliberate misinformation. The film suggests that heroism in the modern world requires not just physical courage, but also the intelligence to see through deception and the wisdom to know who deserves trust. The European setting allows the film to explore themes of cultural exchange and global responsibility, suggesting that heroism transcends national boundaries and that threats to one part of the world affect everyone. Peter's journey through different European cities mirrors his emotional and psychological journey as he moves from the romantic idealism of Venice through the historic white of Prague to the modern challenges of London. Each location represents a different stage in his development as both a hero and a person. The film's handling of the post-Endgame world demonstrates thoughtful consideration of how such massive events would affect ordinary people. The concept of the blip and its consequences provides both comedic opportunities and dramatic weight, showing how global catastrophes create both absurd situations and genuine trauma. The film's approach to these consequences feels authentic and grounded, avoiding both trivializing the events and becoming overwhelmed by their implications. Spider-Man: Far From Home succeeds as both a standalone adventure and as part of the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe tapestry. It provides satisfying character development for Peter Parker, while also setting up future storylines and conflicts. The film's ending, with Peter's identity revealed to the world, creates a fundamentally new status quo that will have lasting implications for the character and the broader franchise. The movie also serves as an effective conclusion to Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, providing a more intimate and character-focused final than the epic scale of Avengers: Endgame. While Endgame provided a climactic conclusion to the Infinity Saga, Far From Home offers a more personal exploration of what comes next, focusing on how individuals cope with change and responsibility in a world that has been forever altered by extraordinary events. The film's themes of trust, deception, and the difficulty of knowing what is real extend beyond the superhero genre to reflect broader concerns about truth and authority in the modern world. Beck's manipulation of public opinion through carefully crafted illusions serves as a metaphor for how charismatic leaders can exploit people's desire for simple explanations and clear heroes. The film suggests that true heroism requires not just good intentions, but also critical thinking and the courage to question authority when necessary. The relationship between Peter and Tony Stark's legacy is handled with particular care, showing how mentorship can both inspire and burden those who inherit it. Peter's struggle to live up to Tony's example while also finding his own path reflects the universal challenge of living up to parental or mentor figures, while also establishing one's own identity. The film suggests that true maturity comes not from perfectly replicating one's mentors, but from learning their lessons while also developing one's own judgment and approach. The romantic subplot between Peter and MJ is integrated naturally into the larger narrative, serving both as a source of personal stakes and as a representation of Peter's desire for normalcy. Their relationship develops organically throughout the film, with MJ's knowledge of Peter's secret identity creating opportunities for both comedy and drama. The relationship feels authentic to teenage experience while also serving the film's larger themes about trust and the challenge of maintaining relationships when living a double life. The film's action sequences are designed not just to provide spectacle, but to serve character development and thematic purposes. The battles with the fake elementals demonstrate Peter's growing competence and confidence, while the illusion battle serves as a psychological crucible that forces him to confront his deepest fears and insecurities. The final battle in London requires Peter to use not just his physical abilities, but also his intelligence and moral conviction to achieve victory. The supporting cast, including Jacob Batalon as Ned, Jon Favreau as Happy, Marisa Tomei as Aunt May, and the various classmates and teachers, creates a believable world around Peter that gives weight to his desire to protect his normal life. These characters serve as more than just comic relief or plot devices. They represent the community that Peter is fighting to protect and the relationships that give his heroic actions meaning and purpose. The film's production design successfully creates distinct visual identities for each European location, while also maintaining visual continuity with the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe. The contrast between the historic architecture of Venice and Prague and the modern technology of Beck's illusions creates a visual metaphor for the conflict between traditional values and technological manipulation that runs throughout the story. The musical score by Michael Giacchino effectively supports both the emotional and action beats of the film, incorporating themes from previous Spider-Man films, while also introducing new musical ideas that reflect Peter's growth and the film's European setting. The use of popular music, particularly in the romantic scenes between Peter and Jay, helps ground the story in contemporary youth culture, while also providing emotional punctuation for key moments. Spider-Man: Far From Home ultimately succeeds as both entertainment and as a thoughtful exploration of relevant themes. It provides spectacular action and visual effects while also dealing with meaningful questions about truth, responsibility, and the nature of heroism in a complex world. The film respects both its teenage characters and its audience, offering genuine emotional stakes and moral complexity without sacrificing the fun and excitement that audiences expect from a Spider-Man adventure. The movie's ending, with Peter's identity revealed and his world forever changed, provides a perfect setup for future installments while also serving as a satisfying conclusion to this particular chapter of his story. Peter has grown from a reluctant hero trying to avoid responsibility into a mature young man who understands that true heroism sometimes requires making difficult choices and accepting consequences. His journey throughout the film demonstrates that becoming a hero is not about inheriting someone else's legacy, but about finding the courage to forge your own path while staying true to your values. The film's lasting impact lies not just in its entertainment value, but in its thoughtful examination of how young people navigate a world full of deception and competing narratives. In an era where truth itself has become contested, Spider-Man: Far From Home offers a hopeful message that integrity, critical thinking, and genuine human connection can help individuals find their way through even the most elaborate illusions. Peter Parker's story reminds us that heroism is not about being perfect or having all the answers, but about caring enough about others to keep fighting for what is right, even when the odds seem impossible and the truth is hard to find. The cultural impact of Spider-Man: Far From Home extends far beyond its impressive box office performance, marking a significant moment in both cinema history and popular culture. The film achieved what many considered impossible by becoming the first Spider-Man movie to cross the billion-dollar threshold at the global box office, a milestone that reflected not just its commercial appeal, but its resonance with audiences worldwide. This financial success came at a crucial time for the film industry, providing a much-needed boost during a summer that had seen several major franchises underperform significantly. The phenomenon of Far From Home success can be attributed to multiple converging factors that created perfect conditions for its triumph. The film benefited enormously from its strategic positioning as the immediate follow-up to Avengers: Endgame, arguably the most anticipated and emotionally satisfying conclusion to a decade-long narrative arc in cinema history. Audiences who had just experienced the emotional catharsis of seeing their favorite heroes make ultimate sacrifices were hungry for closure and hopeful for what would come next. Far From Home provided exactly that, serving as both an epilogue to the Infinity Saga and a prologue to whatever new adventures awaited in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The timing of the film's release proved to be masterful, arriving during the 4th of July weekend, when American audiences were primed for escapist entertainment that celebrated heroism and adventure. The film's themes of stepping up to responsibility and finding one's place in the world resonated particularly strongly with audiences who had just witnessed the changing of the guard in the Marvel universe. Peter Parker's journey from reluctant teenager to confident hero mirrored the audience's own journey from the comfortable familiarity of the original Avengers to acceptance of a new generation of champions. Jake Gyllenhaal's casting as Mysterio represented a masterstroke that elevated the film beyond typical superhero fare. Gyllenhaal brought a level of gravitas and psychological complexity to the role that transformed what could have been a straightforward villain into a deeply unsettling commentary on manipulation, false narratives, and the danger of charismatic leaders who exploit people's need for heroes. His performance draws on his extensive experience in psychological thrillers and character studies, creating an antagonist who feels genuinely threatening not just because of his powers, but because of his understanding of human psychology and his willingness to exploit people's vulnerabilities. The chemistry between Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal became a significant part of the film's appeal, both on screen and during the extensive promotional campaign that accompanied the movie's release. Their interviews and public appearances revealed a genuine friendship and mutual respect that translated into authentic mentor-student dynamics in the film itself. Gyllenhaal's experience and Holland's enthusiasm created a perfect balance that allowed both actors to shine while serving the story's themes about trust, mentorship, and the dangerous appeal of seemingly perfect authority figures. Holland's performance in Far From Home represents the culmination of his growth as both an actor and as the definitive cinematic Spider-Man. By the time of this film's release, he had portrayed the character more times than any previous actor, and his comfort with the role shows in every scene. His ability to balance Peter Parker's awkward teenage personality with Spider-Man's heroic determination had reached a level of naturalism that made the character feel completely authentic. Holland's portrayal captures both the specific awkwardness of being a teenager and the universal experience of growing up and accepting responsibility, making Peter Parker relatable to audience members across different age groups and cultural backgrounds. The film's European setting provided more than just a picturesque backdrop for the action sequences. The choice to take Peter Parker out of his familiar New York environment and place him in historic European cities created opportunities to explore themes of cultural exchange, global responsibility, and the idea that heroism transcends national boundaries. Each location was carefully chosen not just for its visual appeal, but for its symbolic significance to Peter's journey. Venice represented romance and the idealized version of his European vacation. Prague embodied the weight of history and the consequences of conflict, while London served as the perfect setting for the climactic battle between illusion and reality. The deleted scenes and alternate endings that were revealed after the film's release provide fascinating insights into the creative process and the difficult decisions that shaped the final version. The most significant alternate ending would have seen Peter voluntarily revealing his identity during the final battle with Mysterio, rather than having it exposed posthumously through Beck's manipulated footage. This alternative approach would have given Peter more agency in the revelation, but would have fundamentally changed the emotional impact and the setup for future films. The decision to go with Beck's posthumous revenge creates a more complex and morally ambiguous situation that better serves the film's themes about the power of false narratives and the difficulty of controlling information in the digital age. Another deleted scene that would have significantly altered the emotional landscape of the film involved a message from Tony Stark embedded in the EDI system, similar to the holographic farewell he recorded before his final battle with Thanos. This scene would have provided Peter with direct guidance and encouragement from his mentor, but its removal forces Peter to find his own way without relying on Tony's wisdom. This decision strengthens the film's themes about growing up and learning to trust one's own judgment, rather than depending on parental figures or authority figures for guidance. The film's visual effects work represents some of the most innovative and psychologically complex sequences ever created for a superhero movie. The illusion battle between Peter and Mysterio required unprecedented collaboration between multiple effects studios to create scenes that blur the line between reality and fantasy in ways that serve the story's themes about truth and perception. The sequence draws inspiration from surreal art, psychological horror, and even music videos to create a nightmarish landscape that reflects Peter's internal fears and insecurities, while also showcasing the terrifying power of Beck's technology. The production design team faced unique challenges in creating Mysterio's costume and effects that would translate the character's comic book appearance to live action, while also making sense within the film's technological framework. The final design successfully combines classic superhero aesthetics with cutting-edge technology, creating a look that is both impressive and slightly unsettling. The elaborate cape and distinctive helmet serve practical storytelling purposes while also creating a visual that is instantly iconic and memorable. The film's approach to humor deserves particular recognition for its ability to provide comic relief without undermining the emotional stakes or the character's intelligence. The comedy emerges naturally from the characters' personalities, that situations rather than feeling forced or inserted for demographic. Peter's awkwardness, Ned's enthusiasm, MJ's dry observations, and the various teachers' eccentric personalities all contribute to a comedic atmosphere that feels authentic to teenage experience while also serving the larger narrative. The movie's handling of the post-blip world continues to demonstrate thoughtful consideration of how such massive events would affect society, education, and individual life. The concept of students who were snapped returning to complete their education alongside classmates who had aged 5 years creates both comedic opportunities and genuine pathos. The film suggests that recovery from such traumatic events would be complicated and ongoing, affecting every aspect of society in ways both large and small. The relationship between Peter and his classmates serves as more than just comic relief or romantic subplot. These characters represent the normal life that Peter is fighting to protect, and the community that gives his heroic actions meaning. Ned's loyalty, MJ's intelligence and skepticism, and even Flash's rivalry all contribute to a realistic portrayal of teenage social dynamics that ground the fantastic elements in recognizable human experience. The film's exploration of media manipulation and the creation of false narratives feels particularly prescient given current concerns about misinformation, deepfakes, and the weaponization of social media. Beck's ability to create convincing false realities and manipulate public opinion reflects real-world anxieties about the difficulty of distinguishing truth from fiction in an era of sophisticated technology and deliberate propaganda. The film suggests that the battle for truth requires not just good intentions but also critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and the courage to question appealing narratives that might be too good to be true. The movie's treatment of grief and loss, particularly Peter's ongoing struggle with Tony Stark's death, provides emotional depth that elevates it beyond typical superhero entertainment. Peter's journey through the stages of grief, from denial and anger to acceptance and growth, feels authentic and respectful to anyone who has experienced significant loss. The film suggests that healthy grieving involves honoring the memory of those we've lost, while also finding the strength to forge our own path and create our own legacy. The international success of Far From Home demonstrates the global appeal of the Spider-Man character and the universal themes the film explores. The movie's box office performance in markets around the world suggests that stories about growing up, accepting responsibility, and finding one's place in the world resonate across cultural boundaries. The European setting may have contributed to this international appeal, as audiences around the world could see their own cities and cultures represented in a major Hollywood production. The film's soundtrack and score work together to create emotional resonance and cultural authenticity. Michael Giacchino's orchestral score provides epic scope and emotional depth, while the popular music selections help ground the story in contemporary youth culture. The use of AC/DC during Peter's suit-making sequence serves as both a callback to Tony Stark's musical preferences and a declaration of Peter's growing independence and confidence. Spider-Man: Far From Home ultimately succeeds because it treats its characters and themes with genuine respect and sophistication. Rather than talking down to its audience or simplifying complex issues, the film trusts viewers to engage with nuanced questions about truth, responsibility, and the nature of heroism. The movie suggests that growing up involves learning to navigate a world full of competing narratives and false promises, but that maintaining one's integrity and caring for others provides a reliable compass through even the most confusing circumstances. The legacy of Far From Home extends beyond its immediate entertainment value to its influence on subsequent superhero films and its contribution to ongoing cultural conversations about truth, authority, and responsibility. The film's success proved that audiences were hungry for stories that combined spectacular action with meaningful themes and authentic character development. Its approach to balancing humor with serious themes, practical effects with digital innovation, and global scope with personal stakes has influenced numerous subsequent productions in the genre. The movie's ending, with Peter's identity revealed to the world, creates a fundamentally new status quo that has lasting implications not just for the character, but for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. This bold narrative choice demonstrates the filmmaker's commitment to meaningful consequences and character growth, refusing to return to a comfortable status quo and instead embracing the complications and opportunities that come with significant change. Spider-Man: Far From Home stands as a remarkable achievement in both technical filmmaking and storytelling, successfully concluding one chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film proves that superhero movies can be both entertaining spectacles and thoughtful explorations of relevant themes, offering audiences both the escapism they seek and the intellectual engagement they deserve. Its lasting impact lies not just in its impressive box office performance, but in its demonstration that popular entertainment can tackle complex themes without sacrificing the fun and excitement that draws. The cinematographic artistry of Spider-Man: Far From Home represents a masterclass in visual storytelling that seamlessly blends practical filmmaking techniques with cutting-edge digital effects. Director of photography, Matthew Lloyd, approached the project with a unique vision that emphasized the authenticity of each European location, while creating distinct visual languages for different narrative elements. The film's cinematography serves not merely as a vehicle for displaying spectacular action sequences, but as an integral storytelling device that reinforces themes, develops character relationships, and guides audience emotions throughout Peter Parker's transformative journey. Lloyd's approach to lighting each European location was meticulously crafted to reflect both the geographical reality of these historic cities. Venice received what Lloyd describes as a bright pastel feel where natural light creates warm, sandy tones that bathe the characters in romantic, idealized illumination. This lighting scheme reflects Peter's initial optimism about his European vacation and his hopes for romance with MJ. The cinematographer achieved this effect by studying how Mediterranean light interacts with Venetian architecture, paying particular attention to how sunlight reflects off water and ancient stone surfaces to create the city's distinctive luminous quality. Prague's cinematography employs a dramatically different visual palette that incorporates both warm and cool tones to reflect the city's complex architectural heritage and the moral ambiguity that begins to emerge in the story at this location. The mixing of warm and cool lighting creates visual tension that mirrors Peter's growing uncertainty about Beck's true nature and his own responsibilities. Lloyd utilized the city's Baroque and Gothic architecture as natural lighting elements, allowing the existing illumination of historic buildings to contribute to the film's visual texture and create an atmosphere that feels both beautiful and slightly ominous. London's cinematography shifts toward a more modern metropolitan feel that incorporates both the city's historic landmarks and its contemporary urban landscape. The lighting during the final battle sequences becomes increasingly dynamic and unstable, reflecting the chaos of Beck's illusions and Peter's struggle to distinguish reality from deception. The cinematographer employed rapid changes in lighting, color, temperature, and intensity to create a sense of disorientation that puts the audience directly into Peter's confused mental state during the climactic confrontation. The technical challenges of shooting the film's elaborate illusion sequences required unprecedented collaboration between the cinematography team and multiple visual effects studios. Lloyd worked closely with pre-visualization artists to plan shots that would seamlessly integrate practical elements with digital effects, ensuring that every visual effects sequence retained at least one practical component to ground the fantastical elements. This approach prevented the film from feeling overly digital while still allowing for the spectacular imagery required by the story. The creation of Mysterio's elaborate costume represented one of the most complex costume design challenges in superhero cinema. Designer Anna B. Shepard approached the character's iconic look with the goal of creating something that would surpass even Doctor Strange's elaborate visual design in terms of mystical grandeur and theatrical impact. The final costume incorporates multiple layers of symbolism and practical functionality, with the distinctive fishbowl helmet serving both as an iconic visual element and a practical device that conceals Beck's identity during his deceptions. The cape alone presented extraordinary technical challenges, requiring the creation of two separate fabric pieces that were sewn together to achieve the proper draping and movement. The intricate patterns adorning the cape were hand-drawn and applied using stenciling techniques that allowed for precise control over the design elements. The costume also incorporates multiple light-up elements that were achieved through careful integration of LED technology with the fabric construction, creating an otherworldly appearance that suggests genuine mystical power while actually representing advanced technological manipulation. The various Spider-Man suits featured in the film each serve specific narrative and symbolic purposes while showcasing the evolution of costume design technology in modern filmmaking. The black stealth suit represents Peter's attempt to separate his European vacation from his superhero responsibilities, featuring a sleek design that eliminates the bright colors and iconic spider symbol that makes Spider-Man instantly recognizable. The suit's design reflects military-inspired tactical gear, while maintaining the flexibility and mobility required for Spider-Man's acrobatic fighting style. The final red and black suit that Peter designs for himself in Happy's mobile workshop represents his full acceptance of his role as Spider-Man and his growth beyond simply inheriting Tony Stark's designs. The costume incorporates elements that Peter has learned he needs through his experiences, while also reflecting his own aesthetic preferences and design philosophy. The construction sequence, filmed with multiple camera angles and detailed close-ups, showcases both the technical aspects of suit creation and the emotional significance of Peter taking control of his own heroic identity. Michael Giacchino's musical score represents a sophisticated evolution of his work from Spider-Man: Homecoming, incorporating new thematic elements while developing existing musical ideas to reflect. The opening Far From Home Sweet Home serves as a musical roadmap for the entire film, introducing and developing all major themes in a 9-minute composition that demonstrates the composer's mastery of leitmotif development and orchestral storytelling. The Spider-Man theme itself undergoes significant evolution throughout the score, reflecting Peter's journey from uncertain teenager to confident hero. The theme becomes more streamlined and heroic as the film progresses, with the youthful, playful elements of the previous score giving way to more mature, triumphant orchestrations. Giacchino achieves this evolution through careful manipulation of instrumentation, rhythm, and harmonic structure, creating a musical arc that parallels Peter's emotional and psychological development. Mysterio's theme represents one of Giacchino's most psychologically complex villain themes, blending orchestral and electronic elements to create music that initially sounds heroic and inspirational but gradually reveals unsettling undertones that hint at the character's true nature. The theme's dual nature reflects Beck's ability to present himself as a hero while harboring villainous intentions, with the music serving as an additional layer of storytelling that provides subtle clues about the character's deception. The love theme for Peter and MJ represents a departure from typical superhero romance music, featuring a more intimate, contemporary approach that reflects the character's teenage relationship and the authentic awkwardness of young love. The theme develops throughout the film as their relationship deepens, incorporating both playful elements that reflect their personalities and more romantic passages that underscore the genuine emotional connection between the characters. The film's sound design creates an immersive audio landscape that enhances both the realistic European locations and the fantastical elements of the superhero story. The sound team paid particular attention to the acoustic properties of each location, recording authentic environmental sounds that ground the film in physical reality even during the most spectacular action sequences. The sounds of Venice's canals, Prague's cobblestone streets, and London's busy traffic all contribute to the film's sense of place and cultural authenticity. The audio design for Mysterio's illusions required innovative approaches to creating sounds that blur the line between reality and deception. The sound team developed techniques for layering realistic environmental audio with supernatural elements, creating an audio landscape that becomes increasingly unstable and unreliable as Beck's illusions become more elaborate. The climactic battle features rapid shifts between realistic and impossible sounds that mirror the visual confusion of the illusion sequences. Spider-Man's web-swinging sequences received particular attention in the sound design process, with the team creating new audio elements that reflect both the character's growing confidence and the different urban environments through which he travels. The sounds of his webs attaching to different architectural surfaces in Venice, Prague, and London each have distinct acoustic properties that reflect the materials and structures of the sea's historic cities. The film's color grading process represented a significant technical achievement that enhanced the distinct visual identity of each location, while maintaining overall visual consistency. The colorists worked closely with the cinematographer to develop specific color palettes for each city that would complement the lighting design and reinforce the emotional tone of each sequence. Venice's warm, romantic palette gradually gives way to Prague's more complex color scheme, and finally to London's cooler, more industrial tones. The color work on Mysterio's illusion sequences required innovative approaches to creating visual confusion and disorientation. The color team developed techniques for rapidly shifting color temperatures and saturation levels that create a... The final battle features some of the most complex color work in any superhero film, with multiple layers of color correction applied to different elements within individual shots to create the impression of multiple realities existing simultaneously. The film's editing represents a crucial element in creating both the pacing of the story and the psychological impact of Beck's deceptions. Editor Dan Lebentel and Leigh Folsom Boyd employed sophisticated cutting techniques to create smooth transitions between practical and digital elements, while also using editing rhythm to manipulate audience perceptions during the illusion sequences. The editing during Beck's psychological assault on Peter employs rapid cuts, false continuities, and spatial disorientation to place the audience directly into Peter's confused mental state. The European locations required extensive collaboration between multiple international crews and regulatory authorities, with the production team working to minimize disruption to historic sites, while capturing the authentic atmosphere of these culturally significant locations. The filming in Venice's San Marcos Square, Prague's Old Town, and London's financial district required careful coordination with local authorities and tourist management to maintain the authenticity of these locations, while accommodating the complex technical requirements of a major Hollywood production. The film's production design extends beyond the costume and set work to encompass the creation of an entire visual. Production designer Claude Paré approached each location with an eye toward highlighting the unique architectural and cultural characteristics that would serve the story's themes, while also providing practical filming locations that could accommodate the complex technical requirements of the action sequences. The mobile workshop sequence, where Peter creates his final suit, represents a perfect marriage of production, design, cinematography, and sounds design work. The workshop itself was designed to feel both high-tech and accessible, reflecting Tony Stark's design philosophy, while also being something that Peter could realistically operate and understand. The sequence combines practical effects, detailed production design, and dynamic cinematography to create a montage that feels both technically impressive and emotionally satisfying. The film's approach to integrating practical and digital effects represents a sophisticated understanding of how modern audiences perceive and respond to visual effects. By ensuring that every digital sequence includes practical elements, and that every practical sequence is enhanced rather than replaced by digital work, the filmmakers created a visual style that feels both spectacular and authentic. This approach prevents the common problem of superhero films feeling overly digital while still delivering the spectacular imagery that audiences expect from the genre. Spider-Man: Far From Home's technical achievements extend beyond individual craft elements to encompass a holistic approach to filmmaking that serves the story's themes and character development. Every technical choice, from the cinematography to the costume design to the sound mix, contributes to the film's exploration of truth, deception, and the challenge of growing up in a complex world. The film demonstrates that technical excellence in filmmaking is not about showing off advanced technology, but about using that technology in service of meaningful storytelling. The psychological architecture of Peter Parker's character development throughout Spider-Man: Far From Home reveals a sophisticated exploration of adolescent trauma, responsibility, and identity formation that transcends typical superhero narrative. The film presents Peter as a young man grappling with what psychologists term complicated grief following Tony Stark's death, a condition where normal mourning processes become disrupted by additional stressors such as the weight of inherited responsibility and public expectation. Peter's emotional journey through the stages of grief becomes the backbone of the entire narrative, with each European location serving as a different therapeutic environment for processing his loss and finding his own identity. The opening sequences establish Peter's psychological state through subtle behavioral indicators that demonstrate his avoidance mechanisms and emotional displacement. His obsessive focus on planning the perfect romantic gesture for MJ serves as a psychological deflection from confronting his deeper anxieties about stepping into Tony's role. This behavior reflects what trauma therapists identify as productive procrastination, where individuals engage in seemingly constructive activities to avoid processing difficult emotion. Peter's detailed planning of his European romantic adventure represents his attempt to control at least one aspect of his life, while feeling powerless in the face of global expectations and responsibility. Peter's relationship with authority figures throughout the film reveals complex patterns of dependency and rebellion that reflect his developmental stage. His interactions with Nick Fury demonstrate the classic adolescent struggle between seeking guidance and asserting autonomy. When Fury manipulates Peter's school itinerary to force his participation in superhero activities, it represents a violation of Peter's boundaries that mirrors the way well-meaning adults often override teenagers' expressed desires in favor of what they believe is best. This dynamic creates genuine resentment in Peter while also highlighting his legitimate need for mentorship and support. The transfer of EDITH to Beck represents perhaps the most psychologically revealing moment in the film, demonstrating Peter's deep-seated imposter syndrome and his belief that he is inadequate to inherit Tony's legacy. This decision reflects what psychologists call self-defeating behavior, where individuals unconsciously sabotage themselves to avoid the anxiety of potentially failing at something important. By giving away the glasses, Peter temporarily relieves himself of the overwhelming pressure of living up to Tony's example, but he also demonstrates his fundamental misunderstanding of why Tony chose him as a successor. Beck's manipulation of Peter operates on multiple psychological levels, exploiting not just his grief and insecurity, but also his fundamental need for paternal approval and guidance. Beck presents himself as everything Peter believes he should be: experienced, confident, and seemingly worthy of Tony's trust. The villain's psychological assault during the illusion battle specifically targets Peter's deepest fears about inadequacy, failure, and the potential consequences of his mistakes. The sequence where Peter confronts a zombified Iron Man represents a manifestation of his guilt and his fear that he has somehow betrayed Tony's memory by not being strong enough or capable enough to carry on his work. The illusion battle serves as a dark mirror of therapeutic exposure therapy, where patients are gradually exposed to their fears in controlled environments. However, Beck's version is designed to overwhelm rather than heal, flooding Peter with traumatic imagery and impossible scenarios that are intended to break his spirit rather than help him overcome his anxiety. The psychological cruelty of this approach demonstrates Beck's understanding of trauma responses and his willingness to weaponize therapeutic techniques for destructive purposes. Peter's recovery from the train incident and his subsequent suit creation sequence represent crucial moments of psychological healing and self-actualization. The physical distance from the traumatic events combined with Happy's supportive presence provides Peter with the emotional safety necessary to process his experiences and begin taking control of his narrative. The suit creation montage serves as a form of occupational therapy, allowing Peter to engage in constructive creative work that rebuilds his confidence while also giving him tangible tools to confront his challenge. The film's exploration of identity formation operates on multiple levels, examining both Peter's development as an individual and his evolution as a hero within the larger Marvel universe. His struggle to define himself outside of Tony's shadow reflects the universal adolescent challenge of developing an independent identity while still honoring the influences that shaped one's development. The European setting provides the perfect environment for this exploration, as travel experiences often serve as catalysts for personal growth and self-discovery, particularly for young people. Spider-Man, Far From Home's position as the conclusion of Phase 3 carries enormous narrative and thematic significance for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Rather than ending on the epic, universe-spanning scope of Avengers Endgame, the decision to conclude with a more intimate, character-focused story demonstrates Marvel's understanding that emotional resolution is just as important as plot resolution. The film serves as a necessary decompression period, allowing both Peter and the audience to process the massive changes and losses that occurred during the Infinity Saga, while also establishing the emotional foundation for future stories. The film's treatment of legacy and inheritance extends beyond Peter's relationship with Tony to encompass broader themes about how societies and institutions transition between generations. The world's desperate need for new heroes following the losses in Endgame mirrors real-world concerns about leadership succession and the challenge of maintaining stability during periods of transition. Peter's reluctance to accept his inherited role reflects legitimate concerns about whether he possesses the wisdom and experience necessary to make decisions that affect millions of people. The multiverse implications introduced through Beck's false claims about interdimensional travel serve as crucial foreshadowing for future MCU developments, while also functioning thematically within the film's exploration of truth and perception. Beck's lies about the multiverse work precisely because they provide simple explanations for complex phenomena, appealing to people's desire for clear narratives and a straightforward solution. The fact that his multiverse story is false while the actual multiverse exists creates layers of irony that enhance the film's themes about the difficulty of distinguishing truth from fiction. The film's handling of media manipulation and information warfare feels particularly relevant to contemporary concerns about deepfakes, social media manipulation, and the weaponization of information. Beck's ability to create convincing false realities and manipulate public opinion reflects genuine anxieties about living in an era where sophisticated technology makes it increasingly difficult to verify what is real. The post-credits revelation of Peter's identity through Beck's manipulated footage demonstrates how truth can be weaponized and how even authentic information can be presented in misleading content. Peter's relationship with MJ develops throughout the film in ways that reflect authentic teenage romance while also serving the larger narrative themes about trust, vulnerability, and shared knowledge. MJ's revelation that she has deduced Peter's secret identity creates an opportunity for genuine intimacy and partnership, but it also introduces new anxieties about her safety and the potential consequences of his double life. Their relationship demonstrates how superhero responsibilities affect not just the hero, but everyone in their orbit, creating ethical dilemmas about whether it's fair to involve others in dangerous situations. The film's approach to humor and tone management represents a sophisticated understanding of how comedy can enhance rather than undermine dramatic themes. The humor in Far From Home emerges naturally from character interactions Peter's awkwardness, Ned's enthusiasm, and the various teachers' eccentric personalities all contribute to a comedic atmosphere that feels authentic, while also providing necessary relief from the film's heavier emotional content. The European locations function as more than just scenic backdrops, serving as symbolic landscapes for Peter's psychological journey. Venice's romantic canals represent his idealized hopes and dreams. Prague's Gothic architecture reflects the moral complexity he must navigate, and London's modern skyline provides the setting for his final confrontation with both Beck's deceptions and his own limitations. Each city offers different cultural perspectives on heroism, responsibility, and community that contribute to Peter's growing understanding of what it means to be a global protector. The film's technical achievements in creating Beck's illusion sequences serve the psychological themes by literally manifesting the confusion and disorientation that Peter experiences throughout his journey. The sophisticated visual effects work doesn't just provide spectacle but creates an immersive experience that places the audience directly into Peter's confused mental state. The rapid shifts between reality and illusion mirror the psychological experience of trauma, where perception becomes unreliable and trust becomes problematic. Spider-Man, Far From Home's lasting contribution to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, extends beyond its entertainment value to its sophisticated exploration of how individuals and societies cope with massive change and loss. The film demonstrates that recovery from trauma requires not just time, but active engagement with one's fears and insecurities. Peter's journey from avoidance through confrontation to acceptance provides a template for healthy psychological development that resonates beyond the superhero genre. The film's ending, with Peter's identity revealed to the world, represents not just a plot twist, but a fundamental shift in the psychological dynamics that have governed his character throughout the MCU. The loss of his secret identity removes one of his primary coping mechanisms and forces him into a new level of vulnerability and responsibility. This development promises to create new psychological challenges and growth opportunities that will continue to evolve in subsequent films. The movie ultimately succeeds in its ambitious goal of serving as both a satisfying conclusion to Phase 3 and a compelling setup for future stories, by focusing on character development and emotional authenticity rather than relying solely on spectacle and plot mechanics. Peter Parker emerges from his European adventure as a more mature, confident, and self-aware individual who has learned to trust his own judgment. His growth throughout the film provides a hopeful model for how young people can navigate complex challenges while maintaining their core values and commitment to helping others. The educational framework of Spider-Man, Far From Home, operates on multiple pedagogical levels, transforming the traditional school field trip into a sophisticated exploration of experiential learning, cultural, and personal development. The Midtown School of Science and Technology's European excursion serves as more than mere narrative device, functioning as a carefully constructed educational experience that mirrors progressive educational philosophies, emphasizing hands-on learning, cross-cultural understanding, and real-world application of academic knowledge. The field trip becomes a laboratory for examining how young people process new information, adapt to unfamiliar environments, and develop critical thinking skills when confronted with challenges that extend far beyond textbook scenarios. The school itself represents a fascinating case study in specialized education, operating as what appears to be a magnet institution designed to cultivate scientifically gifted students who might serve greater societal needs. The accessibility of advanced laboratory equipment, the sophisticated academic decathlon program, and the apparent ease with which school administration can accommodate complex international travel arrangements all suggest institutional connections that extend beyond typical public education funding. The theory that Midtown serves as a recruitment pipeline for future SHIELD agents, or scientific personnel, gains credence when examining how readily the school's itinerary can be manipulated by intelligence agencies, and how many students possess the intellectual capabilities that would make them valuable assets to organizations requiring advanced technical skills. Peter Parker's academic environment reflects contemporary educational trends toward STEM-focused curricula and project-based learning that emphasizes practical application over theoretical memorization. His ability to synthesize advanced web shooters using school laboratory resources demonstrates the kind of innovative thinking that modern educational systems strive to cultivate. However, the film also explores the limitations and potential dangers of focusing purely on technical skills without adequate attention to ethical reasoning and emotional intelligence. Peter's scientific genius enables him to create powerful technologies, but his emotional immaturity leads him to make catastrophic decisions about who deserves access to those technologies. The European itinerary itself reflects carefully planned educational objectives that align with established pedagogical theories about cultural learning and global citizenship development. Venice provides opportunities for studying Renaissance art, architecture, and engineering, with the city's unique relationship between human innovation and natural environment offering lessons about adaptation and sustainability. Prague's rich history offers insights into Central European culture, medieval architecture, and the complex political developments that shaped modern Europe. London represents the intersection of historical significance and contemporary global influence, providing students with opportunities to examine how traditional institutions adapt to modern challenges. The disruption of these educational plans by supernatural crises creates what educators term natural crisis, Peter's classmates witness firsthand the importance of emergency preparedness, the value of remaining calm during crises, and the complex logistics of international disaster response. These experiences provide practical education in areas that traditional academic subjects rarely address effectively, such as crisis management, cross-cultural communication during emergencies, and the psychological challenges of processing. The film's extensive use of comic book references and Easter eggs serves multiple narrative functions, while also demonstrating sophisticated understanding of transmedia storytelling and fan engagement. License plates throughout the film reference specific comic book issues, with AM 1562 nodding to Amazing Fantasy issue 15, the comic that introduced Spider-Man to the world in 1962. These references reward longtime fans while also serving as entry points for new audiences to explore the character's rich publishing history. The inclusion of such details demonstrates the filmmaker's respect for the source material while also acknowledging the collaborative nature of contemporary pop culture creation. The appearance of Morris Bench's name in connection with the water elemental serves as a particularly clever example of how the film adapts comic book continuity for cinematic purposes. In the comics, Morris Bench becomes the villain Hydro Man through industrial accident, but the film reimagines him as a victim of Beck's elaborate deception. This approach allows the movie to acknowledge established Spider-Man mythology, while also subverting audience expectations and serving the film's themes about the manipulation of information and the creation of false narratives. The Uncle Ben reference through the BFP initials on Peter's suitcase represents sophisticated visual storytelling that conveys important character information without requiring extensive exposition. The suitcase serves as what literary critics call an objective correlative, a physical object that embodies complex emotional concepts. The fact that Peter carries this baggage throughout his European journey, and that it eventually disappears, reflects his psychological process of coming to terms with his uncle's death and accepting his own heroic destiny. The metaphor works on multiple levels, acknowledging both the literal baggage of travel and the emotional baggage of unresolved grief. The film's social commentary extends beyond surface-level observations about fake news and media manipulation to examine deeper questions about authority, truth, and the psychology of belief in contemporary society. Beck's success as a false hero reflects genuine anxieties about how charismatic leaders can exploit people's desire for simple explanations and clear moral frameworks. His ability to manipulate public opinion through carefully crafted narratives and spectacular demonstrations mirrors real-world concerns about propaganda, political manipulation, and the weaponization of social media platforms for harmful purposes. The Jonah Jameson's conspiracy theory website, rather than a traditional newspaper, reflects how information dissemination has evolved in the digital age. The character's transition from print journalism to online conspiracy theorist acknowledges how traditional media institutions have lost influence while alternative information sources have gained prominence. This evolution reflects broader cultural shifts toward decentralized information sharing. While MJ's character development throughout the film represents a particularly sophisticated approach to depicting intellectual curiosity and critical thinking skills in young people. Her observation that people believe what they want to believe demonstrates advanced understanding of confirmation bias and motivated reasoning that typically develops during late adolescence. Her ability to deduce Peter's secret identity through careful observation and logical deduction, her skeptical approach to official narratives, and her willingness to investigate discrepancies demonstrate healthy, critical thinking skills that serve as important life skills in an era of information abundance and manipulation. The film's handling of class dynamics and economic inequality provides subtle commentary on how access to opportunities and experiences shapes individual development. Peter's ability to participate in an expensive European field trip despite his family's modest financial circumstances raises questions about educational equity and the role of benefactors in providing opportunities for talented students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. The contrast between Peter's Queen's background and the privileged European settings he visits highlights ongoing discussions about educational opportunity and social mobility. The friendship dynamics among Peter's classmates reflect authentic teenage social patterns while also demonstrating how shared experiences can strengthen community bonds. Ned's enthusiastic support for Peter's romantic plans, the academic Decathlon team's collaborative problem-solving approaches, and even Flash's rivalry all contribute to a realistic portrayal of adolescent social development. These relationships provide Peter with emotional support and practical assistance, while also creating additional stakes for his heroic activities, as he must balance his desire to protect his friends with his commitment to maintaining his secret identity. The teachers accompanying the field trip represent different approaches to educational supervision and youth development. Harrington's well-meaning but sometimes ineffective attempts to maintain group cohesion reflect the challenges educators face when supervising students in unfamiliar environments. Mr. Dell's more relaxed approach demonstrates alternative supervisory philosophies that emphasize student independence and self-directed learning. The contrast between these teaching styles provides opportunities for examining different educational philosophies and their effectiveness. The film's exploration of technological literacy and digital citizenship addresses contemporary educational concerns about how young people interact with increasingly sophisticated technology. Peter's natural facility with advanced technological systems reflects digital native capabilities, but his decision to transfer EDITH to Beck demonstrates the importance of developing wisdom and judgment alongside technical skills. The film suggests that technological literacy alone is insufficient without corresponding development of ethical reasoning and critical evaluation abilities. Spider-Man: Far From Home's educational themes ultimately converge on fundamental questions about how young people develop the knowledge, skills, and wisdom necessary for responsible citizenship in a complex, interconnected world. Peter's journey from reluctant hero to confident leader provides a template for healthy adolescent development that balances individual growth with community responsibility. The European setting emphasizes the importance of global perspective and cross-cultural understanding, while the superhero elements highlight how individual actions can have far-reaching consequences that extend well beyond immediate circumstances. The film's lasting educational value lies in its demonstration that meaningful learning often occurs through experience, challenge, and reflection, rather than through passive absorption of information. Peter's growth throughout the film results not from classroom instruction, but from confronting real problems, making difficult decisions, and learning from both successes and failures. This approach aligns with progressive educational theories that emphasize active learning, authentic assessment, and the development of transferable skills that can be applied across multiple contexts and situations. The global box office performance of Spider-Man: Far From Home represents a remarkable case study in international film distribution, cultural adaptation, and the universal appeal of superhero storytelling. The film's achievement of grossing over $1 billion worldwide marked a historic milestone not just for the Spider-Man franchise but for Sony Pictures Entertainment, becoming the studio's highest-grossing film of all time. This financial success reflected sophisticated marketing strategies, cultural sensitivity in international markets, and the careful cultivation of global audiences who had been invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe narrative. The international box office breakdown reveals fascinating insights into regional preferences and cultural reception patterns that extend far beyond simple financial metrics. China's contribution of over $98 million during the opening weekend demonstrated the film's ability to resonate with audiences in the world's second-largest film market, despite complex cultural and political considerations that often affect Hollywood productions. The film's success in China can be attributed to several factors, including the universal appeal of coming-of-age stories, the spectacular visual effects that translate effectively across language barriers, and the careful attention to avoiding culturally sensitive content that might have limited its distribution. The film's $33.8 million opening in Korea represented the fourth largest Hollywood opening in that market, suggesting that the Spider-Man character's appeal transcends cultural boundaries. This success likely resulted from the character's relatability as a young person struggling with responsibility and identity, themes that resonate strongly in Korean culture's emphasis on educational achievement and social obligation. European markets responded enthusiastically to the film's decision to set significant portions of the story in historic European cities, creating a sense of cultural validation and tourist appeal that enhanced the viewing experience for local audiences. The United Kingdom's $17.8 million opening reflected both the natural appeal of seeing London featured prominently in a major Hollywood production and the cultural affinity between British and the film's European success demonstrated how location choices can significantly impact international box office performance, with audiences showing particular enthusiasm for seeing their home cities and cultural landmarks represented in spectacular superhero action sequences. The merchandising campaign surrounding Spider-Man Far From Home employed sophisticated strategies that extended the film's brand presence far beyond traditional theatrical marketing. The campaign included partnerships with major retailers, limited edition collectibles, clothing lines, and interactive promotional materials that created multiple touchpoints for audience engagement. The success of these merchandising efforts reflected careful attention to different demographic segments, with products ranging from high-end collectibles for adult fans to accessible toys and clothing items for younger audiences. The viral marketing component of the promotional campaign demonstrated innovative approaches to digital storytelling and audience engagement. The creation of the Daily Bugle Net as a fictional news website provided an immersive experience that allowed fans to explore the film's world beyond the cinema. This approach reflected understanding of contemporary media consumption patterns. The website's content, designed to feel like authentic journalism within the film's universe, provided additional context and background information while also serving promotional purposes. The film's awards recognition across multiple categories reflected the technical excellence and artistic achievement that contributed to its commercial success. The ACTA Award for Best Visual Effects acknowledged the groundbreaking work in creating Beck's elaborate illusion sequences, which required unprecedented collaboration between multiple effects studios and innovative approaches to blending practical and digital elements. The recognition from the Saturn Awards, which specifically honor science fiction, fantasy, and horror achievements, validated the film's success in serving genre expectations. Tom Holland's recognition at various award ceremonies, including his wins at the Saturn Awards and Teen Choice Awards, demonstrated the importance of casting decisions in creating authentic character portrayals that resonate with audiences across different age groups. His ability to convincingly portray both Peter Parker's teenage awkwardness and Spider-Man's heroic determination created a performance that satisfied both longtime comic book fans and newcomers to the film. The awards recognition reflected not just his individual performance but also the film's success in creating compelling character development within spectacular action sequences. Zendaya's awards recognition, particularly her Saturn Award win for Best Supporting Actress, acknowledged her sophisticated portrayal of MJ as an intelligent, independent character who serves as more than just a romantic interest. Her performance demonstrated how supporting characters in superhero films can provide emotional depth and thematic resonance, while also contributing to the film's exploration of contemporary social issues and relationships. The recognition reflected the film's success in creating well-developed female characters who contribute meaningfully to both plot development and thematic exploration. The film's technical achievements in visual effects, sound design, and cinematography received recognition from industry organizations that specifically evaluate craft excellence. The Visual Effects Society nominations acknowledged the innovative work required to create Mysterio's psychologically complex illusion sequences, which pushed the boundaries of what was possible in terms of blending reality and fantasy within a single narrative framework. These technical achievements contributed significantly to the film's commercial success by creating spectacular imagery that justified the theatrical experience and encouraged repeat viewings. The marketing campaign's integration of social media platforms demonstrated sophisticated understanding of contemporary audience engagement patterns, and the importance of creating shareable content that extends a film's promotional reach through organic audience. The campaign included interactive elements, behind-the-scenes content, and character-focused materials that allowed fans to engage with different aspects of the film's world. This approach created sustained audience interest over the extended promotional period and helped maintain momentum through the film's international rollout across different markets. The film's success in family markets reflected careful attention to content ratings and thematic material that would appeal to multiple generations while still delivering the spectacular action sequences that adult audiences expected. The balance between teenage romance, coming-of-age themes, and superhero adventure created a viewing experience that satisfied diverse audience expectations without compromising artistic integrity or narrative coherence. This broad appeal contributed significantly to box office performance by encouraging family attendance and repeat viewings. The international distribution strategy demonstrated sophisticated understanding of regional release patterns, holiday schedules, and competitive considerations that affect film performance in different markets. The decision to release the film during summer vacation periods in key markets aligned with audience availability and leisure spending patterns, while the coordination of global marketing efforts created sustained international attention that amplified the film's cultural impact beyond individual regional markets. Spider-Man: Far From Home's commercial success reflected not just effective marketing and distribution strategies, but also the culmination of over a decade of careful universe building and character development within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film's ability to serve as both a satisfying conclusion to Phase 3 and an engaging standalone adventure demonstrated the sophisticated storytelling approaches that had built sustained audience investment in these characters and their work. The box office performance validated the long-term strategy of creating interconnected narratives that reward sustained audience engagement while also providing accessible entry points for new viewers. The film's lasting impact on the entertainment industry extends beyond its immediate financial success to its demonstration of how international markets can drive major Hollywood productions and how cultural sensitivity combined with spectacular storytelling can create truly global. The success of Far From Home influenced subsequent industry approaches to international marketing, merchandising campaigns, and the integration of location shooting with promotional strategies, establishing new standards for how major franchise films engage with global audiences while maintaining artistic and narrative integrity. Jon Watts' directorial approach to Spider-Man: Far From Home represents a sophisticated evolution of his filmmaking philosophy, demonstrating mastery of large-scale blockbuster production while maintaining the intimate character focus that distinguished his earlier work. Watts' background in independent filmmaking, particularly his thriller work on films like Cop Car, provided him with unique perspectives on tension-building and character-driven storytelling that proved invaluable when translating those skills to superhero spectacle. The director's philosophy regarding practical versus digital effects reflects sophisticated understanding of contemporary audience expectations and the technical capabilities of modern filmmaking. Watts learned through experience that audiences can intuitively distinguish between effects that enhance authentic performances and those that replace human elements entirely. His advice to future Spider-Man directors about avoiding purely practical web-swinging sequences demonstrates understanding that effective superhero filmmaking requires seamless integration of multiple technical approaches, rather than ideological commitment to any single methodology. Watts' approach to staging action sequences prioritizes spatial claritizes. Watts' approach to staging action sequences prioritizes spatial clarity and emotional coherence over pure. His collaboration with cinematographer Matthew Lloyd emphasized what they termed motivated movement, ensuring that every camera move and edit serves specific narrative or emotional purposes, rather than simply creating visual excitement. This philosophy becomes particularly evident in the film's European action sequences, where the movement of the camera reflects Peter's emotional state and level of confidence throughout different encounters. The director's handling of the illusion battle sequence required unprecedented collaboration with visual effects supervisors to create scenes that function on multiple narrative levels simultaneously. Watts approached this challenge by treating each layer of Beck's deception as a separate film that needed to be coherent in its own right while also serving the larger psychological assault on Peter's perception of reality. The sequence required careful attention to pacing, visual rhythm, and symbolic imagery that would register both consciously and subconsciously with audiences. The stunt coordination for Spider-Man Far From Home represented a masterclass in integrating human performance with digital enhancement to create action sequences that feel both spectacular and authentic. Stunt coordinator George Cottle worked closely with Tom Holland to develop action choreography that emphasized the character's unique movement vocabulary while also accommodating the practical limitations of human performers. The approach prioritized what they called motivated acrobatics, ensuring that every physical action reflected Peter's emotional state and tactical thinking, rather than simply showing off spectacular movement capabilities. Holland's personal involvement in stunt work extended far beyond typical actor participation, with the performer working extensively with coordinators to develop action sequences that reflected his understanding of Peter Parker's psychology and physical capabilities. His background in dance and gymnastics provided foundation for creating movement that felt distinctly different from other superhero characters, while also serving the story. The collaboration between Holland and the stunt team created action sequences that function as character development rather than simply spectacular interludes. The European locations presented unique challenges for stunt coordination, requiring adaptation of established action choreography to work within historic environments that couldn't be significantly modified for filming purposes. The team developed innovative approaches to rigging and safety that would protect both performers and culturally significant architecture while still delivering the spectacular action sequences the story required. The Venice water sequences particularly required specialized techniques for underwater safety and coordination with local maritime authorities. The aerial sequences featuring Peter's ejection from Fury's plane required some of the most complex stunt coordination in the film, combining practical performance with extensive digital environments to create a sequence that feels both dangerous and emotionally resonant. The coordination team developed specialized rigs that could simulate multiple types of aerial movement while maintaining performer safety and allowing for the detailed facial performance that the sequence required for emotional effect. Fan theories surrounding Spider-Man Far From Home demonstrate the sophisticated engagement that contemporary audiences bring to franchise filmmaking, with viewers developing complex interpretations that often extend beyond the filmmaker's original intentions. The theory that Tony Stark's dismissive comment about bloggers in Homecoming was specifically intended to discourage Peter's vlogging activities reflects the kind of detailed analysis that modern franchise storytelling both invites and rewards. These theories demonstrate how audiences actively participate in creating meaning and continuity within extended fictional universes. The scroll revelation in the post-credits sequence generated extensive fan speculation about the implications for previous MCU events and the reliability of established narrative elements. Theories emerged about which other appearances by Nick Fury might have been Skrull impersonations, creating retroactive questions about character motivations and plot developments throughout multiple films. This approach to storytelling reflects Marvel's strategy of creating layered narratives that reward both casual viewing and intensive analysis. The multiverse concepts introduced through Beck's deceptions, even though revealed as false, established thematic and conceptual foundations that would prove crucial for subsequent MCU developments. Fan theories correctly predicted that the false multiverse claims would eventually be validated through actual multiverse storylines, demonstrating how audiences can sometimes anticipate creative directions through careful attention. Beck's manipulation techniques generated extensive analysis about the psychology of deception and the vulnerabilities that make people susceptible to false narratives. Fan discussions explored how Beck's approach reflected real-world propaganda techniques and the particular vulnerabilities of individuals dealing with grief and trauma. These conversations demonstrated how superhero narratives can serve as frameworks for examining complex social and psychological. The film's approach to integrating practical and digital effects reflects broader industry trends toward what visual effects supervisors call invisible enhancement, where digital techniques augment rather than replace practical elements. The goal becomes creating seamless experiences where audiences cannot distinguish between practical and digital components, because both serve the same narrative and emotional purpose. The European location shooting required extensive coordination with local authorities, cultural preservation organizations, and tourism boards to ensure that filming activities would not damage historic sites or significantly disrupt local communities. The production team developed specialized protocols for working in culturally sensitive environments, while still capturing the authentic atmosphere and architectural details that the story required. Watts' direction of the younger cast members reflects sophisticated understanding of adolescent psychology and the particular challenges of portraying teenage characters in high-stakes dramatic situations. His approach emphasizes authenticity of emotional response over conventional dramatic techniques, encouraging performances that feel natural and spontaneous even within highly choreographed action sequences. This philosophy creates performances that resonate with both teenage audiences. The director's handling of the film's romantic elements demonstrates understanding that contemporary audiences expect more sophisticated portrayals of teenage relationships than traditional superhero films typically provide. The development of Peter and MJ's relationship reflects authentic patterns of adolescent romance, while also serving the film's larger themes about trust, vulnerability, and the challenge of maintaining relationships while carrying significant secrets. Spider-Man: Far From Home's technical achievements represent the culmination of sophisticated collaboration between multiple craft departments working towards shared artistic and narrative goals. The film demonstrates how contemporary blockbuster filmmaking can achieve spectacular results while maintaining focus on character development and thematic coherence. Watts' direction successfully balances the multiple demands of franchise filmmaking, international distribution, and artistic integrity to create entertainment that satisfies diverse audience expectations while also contributing meaningfully to ongoing narrative and thematic development within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The environmental consciousness embedded within Spider-Man: Far From Home operates on multiple thematic levels, reflecting contemporary anxieties about climate change, resource consumption, and humanity's relationship with the natural world. While the film doesn't explicitly address environmental issues as central plot elements, its underlying themes about responsibility, stewardship, and the consequences of technological manipulation resonates. The character of Spider-Man has historically served as what environmental advocates term a climate superhero, with his fundamental ethos of responsibility aligning naturally with environmental stewardship principles. The film's European setting provides subtle commentary on different cultural approaches to environmental preservation and sustainable development. Venice's ongoing struggle with rising sea levels and over-tourism creates an underlying tension that mirrors global environmental challenges. Even though the immediate threat comes from Beck's fabricated water elemental, the city's delicate balance between preserving historic architecture and accommodating modern needs reflects broader questions about sustainable development and the challenge of protecting cultural heritage while meeting contemporary demands. Prague's architectural landscape, with its centuries-old buildings and cobblestone streets, represents a model of sustainable construction that contrasts sharply with contemporary disposable culture. The city's survival through multiple historical periods demonstrates the environmental benefits of durable construction and thoughtful urban planning. The film's decision to set major action sequences in these historic environments creates implicit commentary about the value of preservation over replacement, though this theme remains largely subtext rather than explicit messaging. London's modern skyline and advanced infrastructure represent the contemporary challenge of balancing technological progress with environmental responsibility. The final battle's use of holographic illusions, rather than actual destruction, suggests possibilities for entertainment and spectacle that don't require massive resource consumption or environmental damage. Beck's drones, while serving villainous purposes in the narrative, represent the kind of advanced technology that could theoretically be used for environmental monitoring and protection, rather than deception and manipulation. The fashion influence of Spider-Man: Far From Home extends far beyond simple costume design to encompass broader cultural conversations about identity expression, functionality, and the relationship between clothing and personal empowerment. The film's various Spider-Man suits function as what fashion theorists call identity architecture, providing Peter with different tools for different aspects of his life while also reflecting his psychological state and look. The black stealth suit's influence on contemporary fashion demonstrates how superhero costume design can translate into streetwear and casual fashion trends. The suit's sleek, minimalist aesthetic and tactical functionality appealed to fashion designers and consumers seeking clothing that combines style with practical features. The monochromatic color scheme and fitted silhouette influenced everything from athletic wear, with designers incorporating Mysterio's elaborate costume design created ripple effects throughout fantasy and theatrical fashion communities, inspiring costume designers, cosplayers, and fashion artists to experiment with dramatic silhouettes, flowing fabrics, and ornate detail work. The character's distinctive cape and helmet design influenced runway fashion shows and avant-garde fashion photography, with designers drawing inspiration from the costume's combination of classical and futuristic style. MJ's distinctive style throughout the film, characterized by vintage-inspired pieces, layered accessories, and carefully curated thrift store finds, reflected and reinforced growing interest in sustainable fashion and individual style expression. Her approach to clothing as personal storytelling influenced practical, personally meaningful approaches to embrace more eclectic, personally meaningful approaches to wardrobe. The philosophical dimensions of Spider-Man Far From Home engage with fundamental questions about truth, reality, and the nature of heroism that connect to broader philosophical traditions, while remaining accessible to general audiences. The film's exploration of Beck's elaborate deceptions creates what philosophers call epistemic uncertainty, where characters and audiences must grapple with the difficult distinguishing between authentic. The illusion battle sequence functions as a cinematic exploration of Cartesian skepticism, the philosophical position that questions whether we can ever be certain about the reality of our experiences. Peter's struggle to distinguish between Beck's projections and actual reality mirrors classical philosophical thought experiments about the reliability of sensory perception and the possibility of systematic deception. The sequence suggests that truth-seeking requires not just intellectual analysis, but also emotional intuition and trust in one's deepest instincts. Beck's character embodies what existentialist philosophers term bad faith, the denial of one's authentic self in favor of a constructed persona designed to gain external validation. His elaborate superhero performance represents the existentialist concept of living for others, rather than authentically engaging with one's actual circumstances and responsibilities. His manipulation of public perception demonstrates how charismatic individuals can exploit people's desire for simple narratives and clear moral framework. Peter's journey throughout the film reflects the existentialist process of authentic self-creation, moving from dependence on external authority figures toward acceptance of his own agency and responsibility. His growth from reluctant teenager to confident hero demonstrates what philosophers call radical freedom, the recognition that individuals must create their own meaning and purpose, rather than inheriting predetermined roles or expectations. The film's treatment of legacy and inheritance engages with philosophical questions about personal identity and continuity over time. Peter's relationship with Tony Stark's memory and technology raises questions about whether identity is primarily individual or communal, and whether we can ever truly separate our own achievements from the influences that shaped our development. Glasses serve as what philosophers call extended mind technology, raising questions about where individual capability ends and technological augmentation begins. The multiverse concepts introduced through Beck's false claims, even though revealed as deceptive, establish philosophical frameworks for examining questions about the nature of reality and the possibility of alternative existences. The fact that Beck's lies about interdimensional travel later prove to contain elements of truth creates interesting paradoxes about the relationship between fiction and reality, suggesting that false narratives can sometimes point toward deeper truths about the nature of existence. MJ's skeptical worldview throughout the film reflects philosophical traditions of critical thinking and epistemological humility. Her consistent questioning of official narratives and her careful attention to evidence-based reasoning demonstrate what philosophers call methodological skepticism, the practice of withholding judgment until sufficient evidence becomes available. Her approach serves as a counterbalance to Peter's initial willingness to trust Beck's claims based on emotional appeal rather than logical analysis. The film's exploration of responsibility and power connects to virtue ethics traditions that emphasize character development and moral reasoning rather than rule-following or consequence calculation. Peter's growth throughout the film demonstrates what Aristotelian ethics terms practical wisdom, the ability to discern appropriate action in complex situations that don't have clear precedents or simple solutions. Spider-Man: Far From Home's integration of these environmental, fashion, and philosophical themes demonstrates how contemporary superhero filmmaking can address complex cultural issues while maintaining entertainment value and narrative coherence. The film's approach to these deeper themes remains largely subtextual, allowing audiences to engage with multiple levels of meaning without requiring specialized knowledge or explicit didactic. This sophisticated approach to thematic integration reflects understanding that modern audiences appreciate entertainment that respects their intelligence while providing multiple entry points for different levels of engagement and interpretation. The technological themes woven throughout Spider-Man: Far From Home create a sophisticated commentary on humanity's relationship with digital systems, artificial intelligence, and the increasing integration of technology into personal identity. The film explores what researchers call technological ambivalence, examining both the empowering potential and dangerous vulnerabilities that emerge when advanced systems become extensions of human capability and decision-making processes. Peter Parker's journey from passive recipient of Tony Stark's technological legacy to active creator of his own systems reflects broader cultural anxieties about technological dependency and the challenge of maintaining human DITH system serves as a perfect metaphor for contemporary concerns about surveillance capitalism, artificial intelligence governance, and the concentration of technological power in the hands of individuals who may lack the wisdom or ethical framework necessary to wield such capabilities responsibly. The system's ability to access global surveillance networks, control orbital weapons platforms, and manipulate information flows represents the kind of technological power that contemporary tech moguls actually possess, raising questions about accountability, transparency, and democratic oversight of advanced technological systems. Beck's manipulation of holographic technology to create convincing false realities reflects contemporary anxieties about deepfakes, virtual reality manipulation, and the increasing difficulty of distinguishing between authentic and artificial media content. His ability to create immersive experiences that fool not just individual observers, but entire populations demonstrates how advanced technology can be weaponized for some. The film suggests that the same technological capabilities that could be used for education, entertainment, or therapeutic purposes can easily be repurposed for deception and exploitation. The contrast between Tony Stark's intuitive, gesture-based interfaces and traditional technology demonstrates how advanced systems can democratize access to powerful capabilities, while also creating new forms of dependency and vulnerability. Peter's ability to design and fabricate a sophisticated superhero suit using Stark's mobile workshop represents the empowering potential of advanced manufacturing and design technology. However, his initial inability to distinguish between Beck's authentic and fabricated claims demonstrates how technological sophistication doesn't automatically confer wisdom or judgment. The family dynamics explored throughout Spider-Man: Far From Home reveal complex patterns of attachment, loss, and identity formation that reflect contemporary understanding of adolescent psychological development and the challenges of growing up in non-traditional family structures. Peter's relationship with Aunt May serves as the primary family anchor throughout the film, demonstrating how single-parent or guardian households can provide stable emotional foundations when characterized by trust, communication, and mutual respect. May's decision to pack Peter's Spider-Man suit, despite his expressed desire to leave his superhero identity behind, reflects sophisticated parental understanding of adolescent psychology and the importance of supporting young people's authentic self-expression, even when they temporarily reject their own capabilities. Her approach demonstrates what family therapists call supportive autonomy, providing guidance and resources, while still respecting the surrogate father-son relationship between Peter and Tony Stark, continuing beyond Tony's death through technological legacy and emotional influence, explores how parental figures can shape identity development even when physical presence is no longer possible. Peter's struggle to honor Tony's memory, while also establishing his own independent identity, reflects the universal adolescent challenge of integrating parental influence. Happy Hogan's role as an intermediary figure between Peter's civilian and superhero identities demonstrates how extended family networks can provide crucial support during transitional periods. His presence in Peter's life offers continuity with Tony's legacy, while also allowing for new types of mentorship that complement rather than replace existing family relationships. The emotional support he provides during Peter's recovery from Beck's psychological assault demonstrates the importance of having multiple trusted adults available during crisis situations. The film's exploration of friendship dynamics among Peter's peer group reflects authentic patterns of adolescent social development, while also examining how shared experiences of trauma and crisis can strengthen community bonds. The academic decathlon team's collective response to the supernatural crises they encounter demonstrates how young people can support each other through challenging circumstances when they feel safe expressing vulnerability and seeking help from peers. Spider-Man: Far From Home's legacy within the superhero genre extends far beyond its immediate commercial success to encompass its sophisticated approach to character development, thematic exploration, and technical innovation that has influenced subsequent productions across multiple studios and franchises. The film's success in balancing spectacular action sequences with intimate character moments established new expectations for superhero filmmaking. The movie's approach to handling the aftermath of massive traumatic events, like the blip, created templates for how franchise filmmaking can address the psychological and social consequences of fantastic scenarios without becoming overwhelmed by their implications. The film demonstrates how individual stories can serve larger narrative arcs while maintaining focus on personal growth and relationship development, rather than simply advancing plot mechanics or setting up future installments. The technical achievements in creating Beck's illusion sequences pushed the boundaries of what was possible in terms of blending practical and digital effects while serving specific narrative and thematic purposes. The innovations developed for these sequences influenced visual effects work on subsequent films and established new standards for how technology can be used to create psychologically complex sequences that function on multiple narrative levels. The film's exploration of media manipulation, false narratives, and the psychology of belief established frameworks for examining contemporary issues about information warfare and digital literacy that have become increasingly relevant as social media platforms and artificial intelligence systems. Peter Parker's character development throughout the film created a new template for superhero coming-of-age stories that emphasizes psychological realism and authentic emotional growth, rather than simply increasing power levels or expanding capabilities. His journey from reluctant teenager to confident hero demonstrates how individuals can maintain their core values while also adapting to new responsibilities and challenges. The European setting and international scope of the film's production influenced subsequent superhero productions to embrace more global perspectives and cultural diversity while maintaining coherent narrative, focus, and thematic development. The success of filming in authentic international locations rather than relying entirely on studio work demonstrated audience appetite for productions that showcase different cultures and geographical settings. Spider-Man: Far From Home ultimately succeeded in creating entertainment that functions effectively on multiple levels simultaneously, providing spectacular action and visual effects for audiences seeking escapist entertainment while also offering sophisticated exploration of relevant contemporary themes for viewers interested in deeper engagement with the material. The film's lasting influence on the superhero genre lies in its demonstration that popular entertainment can address complex issues without sacrificing accessibility or commercial appeal, establishing new standards for how franchise filmmaking can balance artistic ambition with audience expectations and commercial requirements.